wrong book. Let's find this sucker. Aha! Canterbury Row. Okay. So we're going to be reading this book, and I'd like to draw our attention immediately to what I consider a very important aspect, not even a page into the books. Let's check out the dedication. I don't know if you can read that, but it says to Mr. Ed Ricketts. And because I know a little something about Mr. John Steinbeck, I know that he's very into marine life. I know this from his book, The Log of the Sea of Cortez. He went on a month-long marine specimen collecting expedition in the Gulf of California with biologist Ed Ricketts. So that's where I kind of took off with some of my research, because I knew that this guy had an instrumental role in Mr. Steinbeck's life, so I want to learn more about him. So I checked out Life and Letters of Edward F. Ricketts, where I'm starting to learn about their relationship, which brings me to my next book that I've been doing some research in, being the book my mom sent me, John Steinbeck, A Life in Letters. And on the back here, we're going to hear something very important. For John Steinbeck, who hated the telephone, letter writing was a perpetual work for him. So that is very important, because that is how he communicated to his family, its editors, his publishers. That's the same thing, isn't it? That's redundant. But in any event, that's who we talked to, and that's the means by which he did so. So let's go back to my bookshelf, and we have The Burning and Banning of John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath. This was inspired by a library book, A Critical Response to the Grapes of Wrath. There were a lot of people had a problem with this book, as he had a pretty, I don't want to say controversial stance, but controversial stance, we'll go with that, on crop sharing in the after Great Depression and Dust Bowl. And so some people took issue to it, and obviously The Grapes of Wrath is one of his best books. You may have read it in high school if you were one of those AP English people. Or if you were like me, you just read Of Mice and Men like normal people. So the next thing I got into, knowing that he had some involvement in that, was that I saw the American migrants in Mexico. And again, he liked studying these sort of immigration issues, political hot topics, which brought me to my library loan of A Political Companion to John Steinbeck. Let's get a sense of his stance on politics and some of the roots in which his writing is taking place from. So that's my work schedule. We don't need to see that. And then we have John Steinbeck, A Centennial Tribute. Why did I get this? That seems weird. And that's a publisher. I wanted to get Centennial because they are one of the top publishers of Steinbeck today. They have taken a huge liking to him, and I assume are making a great deal of money on him as we are reading the Centennial edition of his book. And if you're looking for a Christmas present, you can see Steinbeck Centennial boxed set here. You get all of his books there for only $97.10. If you're a Prime member, that's free shipping. Heyo. So then we're going to go to another one of his books, John Steinbeck, America and Americans. Again, he watched the country unfold in some pivotal years from, the Depression era onward. And that's another reason that I got Travels with Charlie in Search of America. This is one of his last books where him and actually Charlie, the dog, took a camper and went across the United States. And Steinbeck wrote on his last viewings of America and reflected on how America has changed. This might be one of the books that I actually use my paper, and I'm going to read on the side here. And again, for my literary life and understanding him more so as a writer, I'm going to check out John Steinbeck, Writer, A Biography. What I learned in my research that was unbeknownst to me prior to my research, so research is fun because you learn new things, right? Steinbeck in Vietnam. Now, don't be fooled by the title, as I was. Steinbeck was in Vietnam? No, he was actually a journalist at the time, and that was one of his main vocations in life. He was a journalist for this. He was a journalist during the Depression era and after the Dust Bowl, and just some fun stuff about him in here. So, there's dispatches from the war, and I'm looking forward to getting into that. And let's go back to my bookshelf as we see pamphlets on American writers. Minnesota, heyo, pamphlets on Mr. John Steinbeck, where we take a little bit of a look into his writing style. And then The Genesis of Fiction. Now, if you're a real Steinbeck fan and can handle his longer novels, not that it's overly complex or anything, because it isn't, East of Eden is a great book, and it has a biblical taste to it, and the story of Cain and Abel. Now, we'll just take Cain and Abel. Now, this is one of the themes of the story, is the story of Cain and Abel, and the original sin of Eve, and how that is, it's a theme throughout the book. And I'm not going to go into all of the details, but it also might be something I'd like to include in my research, as he has some biblical influences. And that's a bit of an update of where I'm at. I'm going to refresh myself with my favorite drink, Dr. Pepper. Great listening, great viewing you. That makes no sense, but adios.